Hello, YouTube.
Okay.
So, my NES original model has a problem. Years ago, probably a little over a decade ago, I replaced the 72-pin connector, and the games were a little difficult to install and remove. After moving and not using it for about 7 years or so, now the games, while a little difficult to install, are extremely difficult to remove now. And no matter how I put them in, more often than not, I get the dreaded red light blink where they're having trouble being read by the system. So I figured today, let's go ahead and try to fix this. I'm going to go ahead and take the system apart and see if I can at least loosen up or maybe clean the connectors. So let's get to it. The good thing about older systems such as the original NES is there's no weird screws. While I am equipped with a toolkit here that'll let me have some of the tri-wing and other variants for the special screws, the good old NES just has normal Phillips screws. So let's go ahead and get to removing those. Okay, with the 6 Phillips screws removed, the top should come right off, which it does. Let's get these screws out of the way. We'll spin it around. And now we have the, I believe it's 7. Let's see, the power supply screws don't have to come out, I remember. So I think it's 6 or 7 screws. Let's go ahead and get these out. So what's going on is the cartridges are too tight going in and out. So I'm gonna test this. So I put in a game. And yeah, it's super tight. So I'm hoping there's some adjustment for that, how difficult it is to get out. So let's get this shield off. Remember in the 1980s, probably due to mainly analog components, that the RF shields were crazy on these systems, all of them. That the bulk of the inside of the system was actually RF shielding. I know the FCC had really strong, really strict requirements for RF interference. Because again, analog TVs, you know, your coax, especially your coaxial connection where it broadcasts radio frequency to channel 3 or 4, that's how these classic systems worked, they were very susceptible to noise. So it's been a while. Does this, I guess this other screw does come out. Okay, RF shields out of the way. Okay, now we can see the system. I'm trying to see if there's any adjustment to loosen this and why exactly the games are so difficult to get in and especially to get out. I'm thinking it's an alignment issue, possibly. Because I know they have to go in. Yeah, it's super hard to get out of that connector. So let me look at that connector actually. Yeah, the pins have a little halo effect. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe you can see right here where it's kind of like a halo, kind of like going down on the ends. That could be something to do with it. So let me go ahead and try to take a closer look at that. So I'm going to try to gently bend these up. You know what, tweezers would be a better tool. I believe I have some in here. Okay, so we have our tweezers. It's like a pin alignment issue, possibly. If anything, the pins look too tight, which is the opposite of what I was thinking I would see. Okay, is there an alignment for this? That's what I want to know.
What?
Can I actually bring that up a little, possibly, or down? If there's some kind of adjustment. There's the back of the connector. It all looks good, to be honest. I've heard people mention that it can be affected by how tight you secure these screws that secure the actual cartridge mechanism, you know, with the spring and load and everything. How tight that is. That sometimes you need to leave them a little loose, so I don't know. Let's see. No, it's still in there. It's like it's super tight in there and it's not reading. Maybe I'm pushing them in too far. Do it just enough where it makes contact. But then you can't remove them. Super tight. You know what, I'm just going to take this whole assembly out. It's only 4 screws. And you have to kind of pull it back and out like that. Okay. So let me see how the cartridge goes in. Okay, there's no resistance there. So it is the connector itself. Yeah, that feels great. Okay, good. So it's not that mechanism, it's on this actual connector. Actually, I don't really want to take that off. But is there an adjustment for this? Yeah, it's like the ends are kind of curved down. I don't know if that's really enough to do anything though. Which would mean it's not letting it set the cartridge all the way in to make a contact, which would cause the blinking light. From what I understand, that's like an authentication error for their security chip on the board. But basically, you can just say it's a failing to read it, because that's really what's happening. It doesn't really matter why, it's just not letting it boot up the game. So it really doesn't, you know, matter if it's security or whatever. Either way, it's just not reading the data correctly. So what I'm doing, I'm just kind of trying to bend these ends up where they're in line with the rest of them. Yeah, I wish I would have known what I know now, that I could have tried the boiling water trick or something to clean the original connector, because I'm sure this aftermarket, I forgot where I even got it from, this 72 pin connector, probably from some game store back in California. You know, this is some cheap Chinese knockoff, I'm sure, that probably questionable quality that I wish I just would have cleaned really well the original Nintendo connector. I probably would have been a lot better off. But here we are, you know. I got what I got, so try to work with it. I don't know if that did anything. Yeah, there's no adjustment for this, so I don't know. How does this go back? So we have to, oh, I see. You gotta kind of hook it. Everything's kind of stuck together after decades of being in here. That's that other RF shield blocking this. Okay, let me bring this back. There we go. Okay, so we get a better look at this connector. What we have here. I mean, I don't see anything out of the ordinary. I don't know. At least I can get to it better. It looks clean. Ah, maybe these pins, instead of the other ones being down, maybe the other ones are all up too high. That could be, and that's grabbing the cartridge too tight. Yeah, that seems kind of tight. Okay, it goes in here and then comes down, right? It doesn't seem that tight though. I guess it is, depending on how you grab it. Okay, I'm gonna spread these pins out a little more. Let's see what that does. Okay, that's definitely less resistance. Let's see what this does. I'm thinking if I get this in here first. There we go. You know what? Let's try it here. It's tight, but it's a little easier to do. Okay, and then let's try to get it onto the board. Okay, that's in. Okay, do the screws line up? Make sure I got that in all the way. Okay, it looks like it is. So let's get the RF module screw back in first. It's actually the AV outputs. All that. It's the little modulator box for the old RF output, which fortunately I don't have to use. This being the, I believe it's the later console, or maybe the original launch had the actual composite out, so that's nice. A lot better video quality than the noisy RF. Before I get this back together, let me make sure. Yeah, that's a lot easier. You know what? I'll go over to the TV and check it out. I can test it like this, see what we got. Okay, so initial tests show it working now, and it's not super difficult to get the games in and out. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it back together and see what we got, folks. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get this massive RF shield on. We don't want the FCC banging on my door. No, folks, I do like to keep these systems as original as possible, to be honest. This one already has an AV out. I'm thankful to have the model that does, so we're good there. This, along with the original PlayStation, I have the models that have the composite out, which composite's good enough for these old systems. I don't need even S-video or anything for that. That's fine. Looks good enough. I have a good TV. So it comes out pretty good. right, there we go. Get this one in. And should only have a couple on top to do. I'm hoping when this all goes back together, it'll go good. And I switched games to one I know works, because I know I've played Duck Hunt on this before. So that one worked. Some of these other games that I picked up in game stores and stuff over the years, most likely probably just need a good cleaning. Hopefully they work. Make sure all my screws there are in. Okay, and hopefully there's some screws here. Ah, yeah, over here. Okay. Make sure I'm not missing any. Nothing loose. Everything's secure. Try one more time before I put it back together. Make sure it's not super hard to get the games in and out. That goes in pretty good. Yeah, it's a little tight, but nothing like it was. All right, let's throw the cover back on. Yeah, I love these old systems with their standard screws. Makes life a lot easier for sure. Okay, that's all back together. I didn't really need to take this access plate off, or the wrap around, you know, where you could wrap the RF, the coax cable, excuse me, you know, out. That was a cool design, where you could bring it out the side. Anyways, all right, let's get it back hooked up and see what we got. Okay, folks, moment of truth. There you look at that. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a working NES. I'll call that one a success. All right, folks, so this NES Repair was a great success. So what it ended up being, I believe, is where the 72-pin connector connects at the actual PC board underneath. It's like a U shape, you know, the cartridge goes in the top and kind of tilts up to make contact with the other, you know, the top pins. And then the bottom row of the connectors, it's basically just a junction. And then the bottom row slides into the motherboard. So there were a couple pins that were a little loose. And yeah, it's proof it's still working. And go in. So anyways, that's a good one. So we do have one more to work on, and in the future we'll see. That might be a lot easier fix, hopefully with just some cleaner, contact cleaner I can throw in there, and hopefully that'll get it going.